Chapter 1. The Night of Escape. In a small town called Linwood, located in a picturesque valley, life flowed smoothly. People knew each other by name, and conversations over a cup of coffee at a local diner were commonplace. But an unexpected storm burst into this world filled with tranquility and routine. 3 prisoners, Mike, Jason, and Tony, escaped from the local prison. Their escape was carefully planned. They used an old tunnel, which, as it turned out, was not closed. Each of them had their own reasons for running away. Mike, the oldest of them, was convicted of burglary. He dreamed of freedom and a new life away from his past. Jason was a young guy who went to jail for a botched robbery attempt. He was full of energy and hopes for a better future. Tony was stubborn and desperate, who had nothing left but the desire to survive. When they got out, the night sky was full of stars, and the air was a reminder of the freshness of a new beginning. They headed into the forest, hiding from possible pursuers. They soon realized that they needed to somehow get the money to escape. They came to the conclusion that the only option would be to kidnap someone for ransom. Chapter 2. Meeting Emma. At night, when the city was plunged into sleep, the prisoners wandered the streets of Linwood. A woman walking to her car caught their attention. It was Emma Johnson, a well-known human rights activist who works for an organization for the reintegration of former prisoners. Emma was a confident woman who wasn't afraid to talk about difficult topics. She often spoke at rallies and drew attention to issues of racial injustice. When Emma got into the car and started the engine, 3 men suddenly appeared out of the darkness and grabbed her. They shoved her into the car and drove off into the woods. Emma was scared, but instead of panicking, she decided to use her wits. "Why are you doing this? What is it?" she asked with dignity. Mike, who was driving, glanced at her. "We need money. We just want to get out of here," he replied. "Do you think kidnapping me will help you?" Emma continued. "I can help you in another way." This phrase surprised the men. They didn't expect their victim to be so confident. Jason, the youngest of the 3, looked at her with interest. "How can you help us?" he asked. Emma started telling them about her work. She explained how important it is to help people who find themselves in difficult situations, and how she tries to change public opinion about former prisoners. Her words began to have an effect on men. Chapter 3. Abduction. In the car, Emma tried to figure out what was going on. She knew that her life might depend on how she dealt with the kidnappers. She decided to start a conversation. "Why are you doing this? What is it?" she asked with dignity. Mike looked at her again and saw determination in her eyes, not fear. "We want freedom and money. We have no other choice." Emma understood their desperation and decided to use this time for a dialogue. "Do you know that I work with former prisoners? I can help you find a way out of this situation without violence." Tony snorted. "Do you think we can just leave? We don't have time to talk." "But you have a chance to change your fate," Emma continued. "If you let me go, I can tell people about you who can help." The 2 men exchanged glances. They didn't expect such a reaction from their victim. Chapter 4. Conversations around the campfire. Having stopped for the night in the forest, the men built a fire. Emma continued to talk to them about life and how important it is to have hope for the future. She shared her stories about how people can change and start all over again. "I work with people who get out of prison," she said. "Many of them just need support and understanding. You can do the same thing." Mike and Tony listened to her attentively. They began to think about their lives and how they ended up where they are now. "We didn't want to become criminals," Tony said bitterly. "It's just how life turned out." Emma nodded. "I understand. But each of us can change our fate. You can start by letting go of your hate and anger." Jason thought about her words. He felt inside himself the desire to change his life. Chapter 5. The Turning Point. With every hour of communication with Emma, The prisoners began to change. They became less aggressive and more open to her ideas. Emma told them about her job and how she helps people find jobs and housing after they get out of prison. "I can help you too," she offered one day. "If you let me go, I can tell people about you and help you start a new life." Mike looked at his friends. He felt inside himself a desire to change his life. He didn't want to be a criminal for the rest of his life. "Maybe we can really try to change our fate," he said softly. Jason nodded. "I'm tired of all this. I want a normal life." Chapter 6. The Solution. The next morning, Emma noticed a change in the men's moods. They no longer looked so determined and aggressive. Instead, they seemed confused and thoughtful. "You have to make a decision," she told them. "You can continue this way or try something new." Mike gathered his thoughts and finally spoke. "We'll let you go, but we need to know that you will really help us." Emma smiled. "I promise to do my best for you." Chapter 7. The Return. When they returned to the city, Emma called her colleagues from the organization. She told them about the situation and how the three men decided to change their lives. My colleagues were shocked, but agreed to help. Shortly after, Emma met with a local journalist and told him the story of how she was able to change the minds of three prisoners about life and give them hope for the future. Chapter 8. A New Life. Three men have started participating in a rehabilitation program for former prisoners. Emma became their mentor and support along the way. They received job search training, communication skills training, and support from other program participants. Mike found a job at a construction company. Jason decided to study to become a mechanic, and Tony began helping at a local homeless center. Emma often met with them and supported them every step of the way. She understood their fears and doubts. She had to remind them of why they decided to change their lives. Chapter 9. Recovery. Several months have passed since their escape. The three men had changed beyond recognition. They were no longer those desperate criminals. They were now people with hope for the future. Emma continued her work as an activist and organized events to raise awareness about the problems of former prisoners. She invited Mike, Jason, and Tony to speak at one of these events. At the rally, the men shared their stories about how they had changed thanks to Emma and the rehabilitation program. Their words made a strong impression on the audience. Many were touched by their frankness and courage to talk about their mistakes. Emma stood next to them with pride on her face. She knew that their story could inspire other people to change their lives for the better. Chapter 10. A New Path. Every day, Emma continued to work on projects to help former prisoners and raise awareness of racial injustice issues. She understood the importance of her work and how it could change people's lives. Mike, Jason, and Tony became active members of her organization. They helped other people find a way to recovery and shared their stories of hope and the opportunity to change their fate. Chapter 11. Hope for the Future. The story of Emma Johnson and the three prisoners has become a symbol of hope for many people in Linwood. She showed everyone that even in the most difficult situations, you can find a way out and change your life for the better. Now, Linwood has become a place of Changes City where people have learned to forgive each other and give a second chance to those who deserve it. Emma continued her work, knowing that every day brings new opportunities for those who are ready to fight for their lives. And although the road to recovery was not easy, Emma believed in the power of change and the possibility of a new beginning for everyone. Chapter 12. Meeting the Past. Despite all the changes in Mike, Jason, and Tony's lives, their past still haunted them. One day, during one of the social events, they ran into people from their past old acquaintances from the Linwood criminal world. These people were unhappy with the fact that the trio had abandoned their former lives. They approached them after the event with threats. "Do you think you can just walk away from us? We know your weaknesses." Mike felt a surge of fear. He understood the danger of the situation. But instead of succumbing to panic or aggression, he remembered Emma's words. "We have changed. We don't want this life anymore." Jason joined the conversation, too. "We want to help others. We have a new goal." Tony added, "If you want to stop us, try it, but we won't be going back." The situation was heating up. Tension was in the air. But then Emma intervened. "You can threaten them as much as you want, but they have already made a choice, and they have support." Her confidence made an impression even on old male acquaintances. They stepped back under the pressure of her words and the fortitude of the three friends. Chapter 13. Community Support. After the incident, Emma decided to organize a meeting for all participants of the rehabilitation program together with the local residents of Linwood. She wanted to demonstrate the strength of the community and the importance of support for those who are trying to change their lives. The meeting brought together people of different ages and professions. Many came just to listen to the stories of those who had gone through the dark times of their lives and were able to come out on the bright side. Mike talked about his path to recovery. "I never thought that I would be able to become a part of society again after all the terrible things that I have done. But thanks to the support of people like Emma, I realized that everyone deserves a second chance." Jason added, "I have found my calling. I'm studying to be a mechanic, and now I dream of starting my own business." Tony shared, "I work with the homeless. I see people every day with the same problems as I once had, and I want to help them." The locals listened to them attentively. Many were touched by their sincerity and courage to share their stories. Chapter 14. Integration Issues. Despite the positive response from the community and the support from Emma and other activists, the three friends had to face the real challenges of integrating into society after their incarceration. It was difficult for Mike to find a permanent job. His past still left an imprint on his reputation with employers. He came to Emma in despair. "I'm trying my best, but every time I get rejected just because I was in prison." Emma hugged him. "Don't give up. You've already taken so many steps forward. I'll help you find the right job." She organized meetings with local businessmen to discuss employment opportunities for former prisoners. Thanks to her efforts, some companies began to change their views on people with criminal records. Chapter 15. Successes and Failures. A few more months passed. Mike finally found a job at a construction company thanks to Emma's help. He felt happy. His life was starting to get better. Jason successfully completed courses in mechanics. He was invited to an internship at a local car workshop. This was his chance to show everyone his skills. But Tony was having difficulties. He was facing mental health issues after everything he had experienced in the past. One day, he came to Emma with tears in his eyes. "I can't handle all this. I'm afraid of losing control again." Emma understood his feelings. She arranged meetings with a psychologist for Tony and helped him start exercising to relieve stress. Chapter 16. A New Challenge. The situation escalated again. One of Tony's old acquaintances appeared in town with threats to bring him back to the criminal world. Tony was scared. He knew his weaknesses and was afraid to give in to the temptation to return to his old life. He came to Mike and Jason for support. "I don't want to end up in jail again. I want to stay here." Mike looked at him. "You've already made a choice. You're stronger than you think. We can all do it together." Jason added, "We'll be right there. You are not alone." Emma also supported Tony. She organized a meeting with other participants in the rehabilitation program to discuss safety issues and support each other during difficult times. Chapter 17. A New Way Forward. As time passed, the three friends continued to work on themselves and help each other cope with the difficulties of integrating into society. They became a real team. They supported each other in all their endeavors. At one of the events, Emma presented them as an inspiring example for other participants in the rehabilitation program. These young people have shown us all the strength of the spirit. They were able to overcome their fears and get out of the shadow of their past." The locals gave a standing ovation. Mike, Jason, and Tony felt proud of their journey. Chapter 18. Restoring Trust. Over time, they became well-known figures in Linwood. Many people turned to them for advice or support in the face of integration difficulties after incarceration. One day, a young woman named Laura approached them. She had just got out of prison and was looking for help. "I've heard your stories. I want to change my life. Can you help me?" The three exchanged glances. They knew exactly what to do. "Of course, we will help you. You're not alone." This meeting marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. They realized the importance of sharing experiences with other people, helping those who are in the same place where they themselves once were. Chapter 19. The Support Community. The three friends started holding seminars for former prisoners. They shared their success stories and methods of dealing with the difficulties of integrating back into society. They created a support group for those who are just getting out of prison. Together with Emma, they organized events to raise awareness of the problems of former prisoners among the local residents of Linwood. At one of these events, one of the businessmen of the city offered to cooperate. "I want to give your program participants a chance. Let's create jobs for those who want to change their lives." It was a real breakthrough for the whole band. They saw real changes around them. Chapter 20. Conclusion. The story of Emma Johnson and the three prisoners has become a symbol of hope for many people in Linwood. She showed everyone that even in the most difficult situations, you can find a way out and change your life for the better. Now, Linwood has become a place of change, a city where people have learned to forgive each other and give a second chance to those who deserve it. Emma continued her work, knowing that every day brings new opportunities for those who are ready to fight for their lives. And although the path to recovery was not easy, Emma believed in the power of change and the possibility of a new beginning for everyone. Every time they saw new members of the rehabilitation program, they realized that their work mattered, that every step forward brought them closer to the common good of all Linwood residents.